One more Minnesota guy? Is
No,
this
no, no, no. One more different player who needs some love because people are really down on him.
all right? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Christian Wood.
Christian Wood. Okay.
Uh,
I know that.
he's in a contract year.
Okay.
Um, I know his defense. He has really bad defensive issues. He's skinny and he doesn't try at all on that end.
Hmm.
But if you were on the Houston Rockets, you wouldn't have tried on defense either. Like that team was not a good team at all. So I think being on the Mavericks with a good coach like Jason Kidd, who will get him to buy in defensively, and
Yeah.
money will also motivate him. Money is the best motivator. Um, I think the pairing with Luca also will just unlock a level of offense for him. You know, he's already really
Yeah.
good offensively, and that was on a bad Houston Rockets team with no playmakers. KPJ, sure, but not really. Um, so I think those pick and rolls with Luca will just be dynamite. Like you got to double Luca, and
Hmm.
Christian Wood can shoot it. He can finish. He's athletic. He's a rim threat. If he buys in defensively, I think the sky's the limit for him. Jason Kidd can really make him dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, kind of my thing that I'll say, and then Pete, you can go.
Mhm.
The one thing I'll say about Christian Wood, if he can play like you talked about, Brad, he'll be so much better than what they had with Kristaps Porzingis, who I think that's what they expected from Porzingis was that
Mm-hmm.
ability. I mean, we saw, again, just not to compare the two, but Porzingis continuing to work on his body and things like that never really worked out there. But if Christian Wood can do that for them, then I think they'll be a pretty dangerous team. Again, they didn't really. I don't know. For me, I think Dallas is a little tricky because I think it's such a one man show at this point where I'm a little concerned with some of the pieces that they have around. I think we talked about it before, Pete, with Tim Hardaway Jr. Health
Mhm.
wise, continues to be injury prone, to me at least. And I think that if you can kind of negate that a little bit and if he can stay healthy, I think this team will be pretty good. And obviously, with Luka Doncic, he's going to take over the game. Obviously, going to be playing really well against the really bad teams and even the really good teams. But in order to beat the really good teams in the playoffs, he's going to really need guys like Dinwiddie, who really stepped up last year. And also, they're going to now need Christian Wood to do the same thing for them. So I kind of like that, Brad. Again, I was a big Christian Wood guy back then, but I think you're right about the Rockets. I don't think it was really the right team for him as soon as they decided to kind of blow it up and kind of went the route
Mm-hmm.
of like going young. And, Pete's favorite thing to say, timeline. He just didn't fit that timeline of what the Rockets were trying to do then. And I think that the trade is going to work out for him.
Well, first off, before I get into Christian Wood specifically, I need to give Brad kudos because I think that's the first time anybody has unironically said on this channel that Jason Kidd is a good coach. And
He's a great
because
coach. I love him.
Bernie and I have been adamant haters of Jason Kidd's coaching career before this last season. We didn't really talk about it too much in 2022, but I agree with you. I think there was definitely some significant improvement in his coaching style and what he was getting out of his players from Milwaukee to his Dallas tenure. So, I mean, I agree with you. And I think one thing with Christian Wood that's underrated is he was sold on a different set of circumstances when he went to Houston. He was sold on we're continuing this James Harden, run of dominance in the West where we're going to be a top 4 seed every season and he's going to be an MVP candidate and you're a complimentary piece to him, right? And that lasted all of 2 weeks basically before we saw fat James Harden. So I agree with you. I think this is probably one of the best fits Christian Wood could have found himself in. It's
Hmm.
more the only thing that always makes me hesitate with him is his willingness to not be the number one guy on a team. And I do think that's a little worrisome when you come from being on such bad teams for a few years straight. But if he can really fit the role that the Dallas Mavericks need, he's a way better version of what Porzingis was to Dallas. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever you think of Porzingis, there's no universe. Even the best version of Porzingis right now is not as good of an offensive player as Christian Wood is. So I think it's a better fit. Opens up a lot of lanes for Luka to, just get somebody the ball who he knows can score. Unlike,
Mm-hmm.
Kristaps, who was always hurt for the squad and just inconsistent on top of it. But I agree. I do think that this is one of those things where this guy has just been good, and now he's going to be seen as good on a good team, which will start to change the perspective. So I agree with you. I totally agree.
All right. Let's move on to the next guy. And again, I talked about it I think I'm gonna go kind of like easy mode and then go hard and see if you guys agree with me with some of these picks. So I'm curious to
Okay.
see what you guys think. So I think number one for me is going to be Tyrese Halliburton.
Okay.
Uh,
Ooh, I like it.
I think for me, I liked and another guy that I'm going to add to him is also Chris Duarte. I've really liked what he did in the summer league. I've been liking the growth and progression that he's had throughout that year. But more specifically to Tyrese Halliburton, I continuously think about the Sacramento Kings and how they continue to make mistakes, and I think that this is going to be one of them. Again, I come from, maybe I'm a homer for Halliburton. I was watching him in the pre-draft, kind of watching his progression and seeing how he played. The biggest question mark was always his jump shot, kind of the same thing that happened with Lonzo back when he was getting drafted. A lot of people were concerned about it. Will it work in the NBA? Won't it work in the NBA? But clearly, after a couple of years now, 4 years in the league, it's clearly working. And you can clearly see that he's improving each and every, or I guess the 2 years. I don't know why I'm thinking that he's a 4-year vet, but for the last 2 years, he's been improving. His numbers have improved. The stats have improved. And, going from 5.3 assists his rookie year to going to 8.2 in his sophomore year, I can't think of a guy that will make the Kings regret that decision. I mean, I've talked about it before with him. He was pissed when he got traded. He wasn't happy that he ended up going, not the fact that he go into Indiana, but the fact that the Sacramento Kings gave up on him that early. And I'm kind of curious to see why that is. I would love to kind of be a fly on the wall in that meeting room where they're deciding between him and De'Aaron Fox.
Whole
But
front office is drunk.
that is 100% true. I don't think I doubt that one bit, especially with the owner as well, also drunk as well. Because I feel like they never could make I feel like both the front office and the owner can't make a decision together that works out for the team. But going back to the Tyrese Halliburton kind of Indiana, I'm not saying that this team is going to be anything special. I think that they still need a couple of pieces before I can consider them being in that echelon of, okay, they're gonna do something. But I think Tyrese Halliburton's gonna be on a mission this year to kind of prove the Sacramento Kings wrong. And I think he's gonna be a 20-point per game scorer this year, and I think he's gonna average the same amount of assists. I'm really convinced with the way that he plays. I'm convinced with the way that he is as a ball player. Again, shooting, I believe, 41% from three is awesome. Shooting about 47% for the floor for his career so far, not bad. But I mean, the 3-point shot to me is what's going to make him kind of one of the best players. And again, Pete, you can probably tell by what players I like, what type of point guard I like in the NBA.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that he's one of those guys. What do you guys think?
I think one of the ultimate travesties with this Indiana Pacers team is that Ayton contract didn't go through. Because, like, if they had gotten Ayton on that nice contract that Phoenix now has, luckily managed to just get back, I mean, that's the way it works. But he's a perfect fit next to what Tyrese Halliburton is going to bring to this Pacers team. Like, I don't know if there's a lot of people that would agree with me necessarily, but like when I look at Tyrese Halliburton, I see, and I'm not necessarily comparing like just the way they play, but kind of the calmness and the collectedness he brings to the team around him. I see like a young Chris Paul. There's just a lot of continuity with the way he runs a team in terms of ball handling responsibility and distributing it to everybody else. But like you said, man, I mean, he is a legitimate 3-point threat. Indiana, we saw I think it was their GM came out and said that he wants him to be their next. Oh my God, Reggie Miller. There you go. I forgot Reggie Miller's name for a second. Excuse me. But I like it, man. I think Tyrese Halliburton is going to be a star. I still can't believe that Sacramento made that trade, like you said. I think every team in the NBA needs to look at Sacramento and just do the opposite of what they do 9 times out of 10. And this is a great example. I mean, I can't fathom why you would choose. And this is no shade directly at De'Aaron Fox. I don't know the guy, but I don't know why you would choose choose him over Tyrese Halliburton. Like, I don't know how any of his on-court production has led you to believe he's a better player. I don't get it. If anything, he's a more inefficient. He's kind of like a closer to like a Westbrook player, De'Aaron Fox. And then you have Tyrese Halliburton, who is kind of this glue guy in terms of how he gets everybody involved, and you choose to go that direction. I don't get it. I don't get it. I agree. I would honestly say you're going to be proven right more so just by the fact that people are going to see Tyrese Halliburton on his own and say, oh, yeah, this is how good he already was. This is just a good player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even know how much of a leap he can take. He was really good last year. So I like it. I think he's going to keep getting better for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you guys because the way he plays the game is like he plays the right way. You know, he gets everybody involved. He can shoot the three. He can get to the cup. He doesn't finish the best, but he has that little high running floater that's pretty money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't understand at all why the Kings decided to go through with that trade. It's probably it's probably as bad as that Vucevic trade, if we're being honest, because
It's
Sabonis
close.
is on the decline. Yeah, like, and they
I mean,
did it to
Sabonis
appease
is better than
De'Aaron Fox.
Vucevic, though. So that's
Agreed,
something, but
agreed.
it still doesn't
Yeah,
make a difference for their team.
yeah. Like, they had Tyrese his first year playing off the ball, and they had De'Aaron running the show, and then they were like, okay, let's let Tyrese run the show and see how this works out. And they were winning more games with Tyrese running the show. And then they ended up trading him to appease De'Aaron because he wanted to be on ball. Like, it didn't, that whole trade made no sense. They did Tyrese dirty. He's absolutely right to be mad. But I think he's going to thrive in Indiana, especially since they're making him the focal point.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to suck. They won't win many games. They might be in the Wimby sweepstakes, honestly. But they'll be fun to watch because they have a point guard that gets everybody involved in the game, and he knows how to play the game. I love Tyrese Halliburton.